We can measure when a person feels gratitude, what happens to their heart. Their heart gets regulated, starts beating more coherently.
Your mind goes to work on finding the things you want it to find. And for me, I want it to find stuff I'm grateful for.
A lot of people talk about the research on gratitude. I actually like appreciation better because appreciation is gratitude squared.
Well, this took me a long time, Shawn, to figure out, because I think that when people say that they want a new job or they want a new relationship or they want to be healthy, they're actually waiting for their health to improve to feel gratitude.
Right.
They're waiting for their new relationship to feel joy and gratitude and thankfulness. They're waiting for the new career to happen. And once it happens, then they celebrate and feel gratitude. Well, if you believe that your thoughts and feelings produce an effect in your life and you're living in the lack every single day waiting for it to happen, you're separate from the experience, right? So if you think about the emotional signature of gratitude, when you are receiving something that you like, that's pleasurable, you've just gotten or received something that is pleasurable, something just happened to you, or something's happening to you that you like, you say thank you, you feel gratitude. So the emotional signature of gratitude is that something has already happened. And it is the absolute perfect state of receiving. It is the absolute state of receivership. So here's an example. A person gets a diagnosis. The diagnosis is something like cancer. The first moment they hear that word, they feel fear. They feel a change in their internal state, and they pay attention to what the doctor says. They take a snapshot, and they create that memory. They remember the moment the doctor said that. So now they're in fear, they're scared, and they're going to think positively. Or they'll say, I'm going to beat this thing. Well, if they're feeling fear, they can only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to their emotional state. That fear thoughts will be the only ones that will make it in there. Now, if the person changes fear to gratitude, as an example, and they really start training their heart, we can measure when a person feels gratitude, what happens to their heart. Their heart gets regulated, starts beating more coherently, it starts increasing energy to the brain, it starts creating an ambient field around the body. This is when your heart starts working for you. That when a person starts feeling gratitude, then the emotional signature in the body is that something's happening to them, or something's just happened to them. So if you're in a state of gratitude, you're in a state of receiving, then the thoughts that you think will make it to the body and program the autonomic nervous system into a different destiny. So just in 4 days, we found that when people, 10 minutes a day, for 4 days, traded anger, frustration, fear, all those limited emotions for gratitude, that their immune system improved by 50%. They made immunoglobulins that made their body stronger. Now if a pharmaceutical company had a drug that could strengthen immunoglobulin A in your body, it would be on every television commercial during the news. And yet your body, your nervous system is the greatest pharmacist there is. So then your body is objective. It's your unconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between a real life experience that creates an emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. So if your body is feeling gratitude, it's believing that something's happening to you. So in the beginning you go, well, I'm going to try gratitude. And then you think, well, this feels really weird. Why would I give gratitude until it happens? Well, because that's how you've been hypnotized. You've been programmed that way. But what if you change it around? The moment you feel gratitude, your healing begins. The moment you feel grateful for your life is going to change. Now you're causing an effect. So we have to embrace the emotion before it happens. Now, why? Well, let's just say you just did a great meditation and your heart is blown wide open and you feel grateful for life. Or you're connected to the emotions of your new career, your new job, your new life. If you're feeling the feeling that your new life has already happened, you wouldn't be looking for it any longer. You would be feeling like it's already happened, so you wouldn't look and be separate from it. You would feel connected to it. And then if you lost it and you started feeling angry because of traffic, I'd say, oh my God, you're back to the unconscious program again of allowing something outside of you to control your feelings and thoughts. You're back to that victimization program. So then when you start playing this game and you catch yourself and you self-correct, and you get back into gratitude and feeling it, then your body is no longer preoccupied of when it's going to happen or where it's going to happen. If you feel it, it feels like it's already happened. So that's the moment you're no longer separate from it. That's the moment you start drawing or magnetizing experiences to
It's not just the thought of gratitude, it's feeling.
you. You got to make it visceral.
Yeah.
And we actually use HRV monitors. We put heart rate monitors on people. We study them for 24 hours. We want to know if they're actually doing it. And we have great results. People could actually sustain that state for over 45 minutes. It's just a skill. Now, why is that important? Because in their life, they should be able to do it with their eyes open. That's
Right.
the game, right?
Yeah.
Practice with your eyes closed because you don't want to be distracted.
Right.
Get good at it. Stand in line. Sit in traffic. Listen to your best friend complain. And you stay in gratitude. You're doing something really well. You're self-regulating.
Yeah.
So much of our attention's on our outer environment, and we want to put a little bit more attention on our inner environment, and we want to create that coherence between the outer world and our inner world. That's when we start to master things.
Absolutely, yeah. We want to be able to mediate our emotions, because I think it's so easy, again, to get trapped in those old patterns if you don't catch it. And like you can decide how you want to feel in that moment rather than being just a victim to circumstance.
There you go. And listen, I react. We all react.
Yeah.
But the question is, how long
Right.
are you going to react? Because those chemicals really last 90 seconds to 2 minutes. After that, you're faking it. You're keeping it going.
Yeah.
So shortening the refractory period of your emotional reactions is really emotional intelligence. If you're going to teach your kids anything, teach them that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it'll turn out to be part of their personality. And they got to work really hard the rest of their life to not be angry or to have a short temper or to be impatient. And I think that people who self-regulate, who mediate in that way internally, are just generally happier people.
Gratitude is the antidote to almost everything negative in your life. Gratitude is, if it's not, love's the most powerful emotion, but gratitude is the emotion that will deliver you the most joy in your life. I'm just telling you. And so I'm constantly taking inventory of what I'm grateful for, small and big things. I'm a gratitude addict because the normal human being and my normal proclivity is to worry, is to stress. I was grown up because of the going on around me. I was wired to be a worrier. Is dad coming home? What if mom and dad are fighting? What's the environment going to be like? What's dad's state going to be when he gets home? And so I grew up worrying all the time. So as I got older, the antidote to that was being grateful. And so I'm constantly trying to seek things out I'm grateful for. Small and big things. It sounds hokey, but I have this experience, humans have it. Sometimes just the wind, man, just hitting you the right way. It's like, man, thank you, Lord, right? So I'm constantly trying to find things that I'm grateful for because your mind goes to work on finding the things you want it to find. And for me, I want it to find stuff I'm grateful for. And the more successful you become, that's why so many successful people are so unhappy. It's the next material thing. And what most people think is, here's what they think, I'll be happy when. It's the most common human condition. I will let myself feel gratitude and happiness when I find the right person relationship, when I get a certain amount of money, when I buy that car, when I buy that home, when I get that promotion. So they delay their happiness until never arrives. It never shows up. So I always talk about being blissfully dissatisfied, learning to live blissfully, being happy, but dissatisfied with where you are. There's no relationship between being dissatisfied and unhappy. You can be happy and still dissatisfied at the same time. And so happiness to me is gratitude. So I'm constantly trying to find things like just you being here today and getting to know you. It's like, I'm grateful for this time. Your beautiful wife. It's like, what a wonderful way to spend a day. What a wonderful experience. I'm grateful for that. And I make sure I remind myself. When I interviewed you earlier today, right? And I remember in the middle of the interview just going, I'm so grateful for this man. I'm just so grateful he's here, And so I'm constantly seeking anything I can find that I'm grateful for because it makes me happy. Why wouldn't I do that?
I think people think there's a lid on happiness, and I don't. And I think it is a choice. I think that it's a lifestyle, and it starts with gratitude, which we hear all the time. But I don't feel, very often we don't feel grateful unless something tragic happens. Like you hear someone get sick or someone dies, someone's in the hospital, like, oh my God, I feel so lucky. And then the next day it's gone. Yeah. I don't feel like I need someone to pass away that's close to me for me to feel grateful. I have a deep, deep appreciation for where I am, what I have, knock up my kid, everything, every day. I say it to my wife every day, Do you understand how lucky we are? And I'm not talking about money at all, but just, so that's the starting point. But when I first started, my dad owned the plumbing supply house in Long Island where I grew up. I didn't, I wasn't handed anything. And my first job was as a break dancer. And believe it or not, I know I don't look the role. The camera guys are laughing at me.
We got to get some of that.
They're laughing
after the
at
show.
me, man. They're laughing at me. But I grew up in the 80s when I was, 15 years old, whatever. So I realized that there's no way the kids in Washington, D.C., there's a lot of competition in New York. We're as good as the kids in New York. Like, we invented this stuff, man. Yeah. So I convinced my sister, who had just got a driver's license, to drive my friend Myron and myself down to Washington, D.C., and we would set up at, in Georgetown for a couple of hours with the boombox, dance, and make some money. So we go down to Washington, D.C., we're driving down there. I'll give you the fast version. And we set up our boombox and, in this little parking lot, hit play. People start to gather around. Myron does his thing. He passes it to me. I do my thing. A couple hours pass. Now we got a big crowd. I take my hat off. I pass my hat around to get the money. We collect maybe $200 or something. I pay my sister for driving us down, the gas money. We separate some money for lunch and dinner. And Myron and I split $82, $41 each. And I give him his 41, I get my 41, and he counts it up. And then he looks at me, 15 years old, and then he comes over and he gives me a bear hug. And he says, "Man, Jess, we're fucking rich." He's like, "We're rich, man." And we were, because I realized at that moment that and I was scared the whole ride up, thinking about what if nobody shows up? What if we're not as good? But when you overcome fear and you put yourself out there, you can get rewarded for doing things that you like. Yeah. And you can make people feel good. It was a great feeling. It was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. Fast forward 20 years later, I was, maybe it was 25 years later. Let's see, 15. Yeah. Probably 20 years later. I built this company, Marquis Jet. We did $5 billion in cumulative sales. We get the phone call. We're selling the company to Warren Buffett. And I just remember at that moment, and this is going to sound like, a movie or like I'm making it up, but it's not. I remember, maybe not in that exact moment, but certainly now, that I didn't feel any more happy when we sold the company than that moment, and we made more money than when I made $41. I really didn't. I mean, yes, did it change my life? Did it impact me? But it wasn't if I was weighing it on a scale, oh my God, I was so much more happy because we made this money. I really wasn't. So in between those two extremes of $41 and selling your company to Warren Buffett's, Berkshire Hathaway, in between those two extremes, what is the gatekeeper?
My morning routine starts in the evening. And it goes back to, if you believe that you've got a greater gift in life, and I believe all humans do, you wouldn't by chance be put on this planet. We've got a greater purpose. And the truth of that is, someone who I believe has really tapped into one of their big purposes is Elon Musk. The man right now, there's a rocket with a Tesla in it that's being shot to Mars, right? It's en route. Wow, that's big. That's big. There's a man reaching for his potential. And so if you believe that you've got greater potential than where you're at in life, whether it's your health, your business, your relationship, your mindset, then you've got to have a more structured day than the average Joe who's just swimming in that sea of mediocrity. So for me, my morning routine starts the night before. Yeah. I make sure that I'm in bed by 10 p.m. And before I go to bed, I make a list I do a brain dump of the 3 to 5 things I need to do tomorrow morning when I wake up that will move the needle in my life, right? That will move the needle in my life in the positive way. And this way, 2 things happen. 1, by doing the brain dump, I'm not subconsciously thinking about the stuff while I'm sleeping, and it's not keeping me awake. 2, when I wake up in the morning, and I always wake up between 5 and 5:30 in the morning, I never hit the snooze button. That's part of my morning routine. I've conditioned myself that if I hit the snooze button, I've subconsciously accepted 10 more minutes of horrible sleep over getting up and living my purpose on this planet. I've chosen that has a greater good. The 10 more minutes of interrupted sleep has a greater value to me, right? And so part of my morning routine is to not hit the snooze button. The alarm goes off, I turn it off, and I'm up. I'm showered, I drink my It used to be 16 ounces of water until you taught me just a few months ago, 30 ounces of water. Drink my 30 ounces of cold water, make a protein shake and coffee, and I'm outside with my dog Cookie playing catch 10 times while I go through my little gratitude exercise. Our mutual friend Craig Ballantyne said, hey, Pedros, you got to start meditating. I tried. Meditating was not for me.
Yeah.
I choose not to meditate. However, I've got a little gratitude exercise that anyone listening to this can do.
Yeah.
And it takes 3 to 5 minutes. Just think about 3 people that you're grateful for in your life. And then once you think about them, just really like, okay, Shawn Stevenson, I'm really grateful for him. Why? He's just a genuine person, a kind person, a caring person, a family man. And I strive to be more like him in many of those areas. Okay, well, I thought about it. I took that in. Now I'm going to apply it to my life. But I'm going to do one more thing. The next thing is text Shawn a text message of gratitude, right? And so just think about 3 people that you're grateful for who helped you maybe in your life, in your journey, in your health, in your business. And then how did they help you? Take that in, take 2 minutes to take that in, and then text the guy or gal and watch the response you get. Like, it's always, man, I can't believe you sent me this. Thank you so much. It came at a timely, like, it is the most selfish thing I can do is to text you a gratitude message, because then you're always going to be like, Pedros, thank you. This meant so much. I'm going to just be so happy. My morning starts off so well, right? Then I'll sit down on my couch. I turn my phone and I go into great detail. I put it on silent, screen side down, and 2 arm lengths away from me. Like, look how much specificity.
Yeah.
Because I control my days, because I don't want to see the screen flash, I don't want to hear it, and I don't want to be tempted by just grabbing it. It's away from me. And now I take that list that I wrote down the night before and I dominate that list. And by 9 a.m., I've done more things to move my business, my health, and my mindset forward than most people have done all day.
The emotional well-being and happiness literature are really fascinating and clear. And if we're directly seeking happiness, we probably won't find it. And those are some of the people who are most unhappy. If we are waiting to be happy until something happens, we reach this goal, or we get this, we achieve this, that is also not a good formula for happiness. And it turns out that when we can see things right in front of us that we're grateful for or that make us happy, when we can notice them and appreciate them and savor them, that brings daily happiness. And so we can use that. We can use that when we wake up. We can use that when we go to bed. Just asking, or you can use it at the dinner table. What is there something that happened better than you expected today? Is there something you're grateful for? Is there, waking up and just asking, what am I looking forward to? What gives me meaning today? And it can be the small things, making someone smile, doing something kind, accomplishing something that, fits into your North Star. It's accessible to all of us. It's just a matter of asking ourselves and noticing. And it's those nudges, those bookends to the day that are helpful to both set us up for a positive trajectory instead of like believe me, I do this, waking up with a to-do list and adrenaline. It's like, just wait a minute and let's have a positive boost of emotion and energy. And that's like the opposite of that, getting on high battery mode and burning up energy and feeling exhausted, because that joy is energy. It's energizing, especially when it's in dialogue with someone else.
Wow. And again, we have this accessible to us at all times. And we don't have to try to proactively do that all day, but if we can just bookend our day, start our day with that, a dose of joy, end our day with a dose of joy. It's another thing that's a part of the stress prescription for a reason. It makes us more resilient.
Exactly. And if you can't think of things, we can ask ourselves in a gentle way and brainstorm answers and ask again if we can't think of anything, but what brings you joy? What brings you joy over and over? And it's those little things that we'll think of that we maybe haven't noticed. Pets come up often, coffee, hug, a hug in the morning, all these little things that really are love, really are meaningful. And same with vitality. What brings you vitality? What drains your battery? What people, what situations, and what energizes you? Those are some clues.
The utility value is that it's the easiest way to change your life. So we both have studied physics, quantum physics, metaphysics, and all the different things that I've learned. Nothing changes your life more than your perspective. And there's only one factor in perspective, and that's whether you're grateful for it or not. Because what gratitude does, it makes everything in your past better, everything in your present even better than that, and everything in your future even brighter. It's an entire perspective changer. And so what we want to do is program ourselves, wire ourselves to be grateful. And the power of it went beyond just saying thank you in the morning when I woke up and listing out like a little 5-year-old what I was grateful for, and thank you when I went to bed. It started truly invading everything I did. I'll give you an example. I was on my way home, pick up my son, and I was late. I'm accountable for being late. And of course I get stopped at the red light. In the past, I would always swear, get aggravated, be detrimental, raise resistance, and then most likely attract more red lights on the way or other things to stop me. I used gratitude all of a sudden and said, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Obviously, there's something in store for me that you're teaching me. And this is the formula. Lessons are miracles. Period. Lessons in life are the miracles of life. Well, how do you learn lessons? Through experiences. Those experiences can be seen as good or bad, but they truly are just experiences. So what makes an experience good or bad? Gratitude. If something happens to you and you're grateful for it, like for me, I lost everything, as you stated earlier, right? When I truly believed and understood that I was so grateful that losing everything brought radical humility into my life. A great lesson. Is a miracle. Without the miracle of radical humility, I wouldn't be where I am today. So in essence, the best thing that ever happened to me, most people would consider the hardest, most challenging, worst thing that ever happened to them. But it's the miracle of my life. It's the miracle of humility. And one of the key components, one of the key characteristics to give me a better perspective along with gratitude.
I love that. I love it so much because as soon as you said it, it makes the past better. I was like, what is this? But it's so real. But I think that you've also, it's a muscle that you exercise because, like you said,
Inner size.
Yes, inner
Right.
size. When something negative, seemingly negative on the surface is going on, for you to stop and then to realize, like, wait a minute, this is happening for me, right? It's not happening to me. It's a gift in it somewhere.
Oh, let me touch on that one.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
kill me because I've just went through this transformation. You'll love it. So I used to think everything happened to me, right? I remember when my brother died when I was in law school, and I almost had to drop out of law school, and I went home to my mom to tell her I was quitting law school, and my uncle, he's like, my biggest fear is you think everything happens to you. You're a victim. I've never seen you be a victim, Dave. Right? He's like, things don't happen to you. They happen for you. The universe is in your favor. It's always been in your favor, right? And so I lived the rest of my time thinking that. My new philosophy, which I think is just incredible, is things don't even happen for me anymore. They happen through me. So they're coming down for me, and then the only way they actually have value is when I give them away. X plus David equals more. Coming through me. And that emptying of the vessel, keeping in the flow, allows me to attract and handle everything that I want. And how do we have things come through us? By doing good deeds. So as many as we can. And that living an inspired life. So I tell people all the time, hold on. It's better than things are happening for you, man. They're happening through you. So not only happening for you, it's happening for everybody else because we're all connected.
There's a lot of research on the whole idea of gratitude at the end of the day, right? The reason, rather than inputting, like rather than scrolling and just doing what we all do, which is just surfing the web before we go to bed, the reason for gratitude at the end of the day is because if you just sit down and think about it and say, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for today? You find what you're filtering for, right? And so like if I'm filtering for it and if I'm thinking about it, usually most people don't take that time to even just think about it, right? They just go to bed or surf there. But if you look at it and you think about it, you will find what you're looking for. It's like, oh, there actually was way more than 3 things I could be grateful for. So that's that second piece is that people don't actually look for a new angle. They don't look for the ways that they're different from who they were a week ago. They don't look for the wins that have happened. They're so focused on what other people think or on their own future self that they're not looking back and saying, actually, holy cow, a lot happened just today, or a lot happened this week that I wouldn't have even thought about, or that I was downplaying. So they honestly aren't even just taking the time or framing it in a way that they can see it and learn from it.
That's so powerful. You're changing your filter.
Dude, everything is a filter.
We do that for our house and our air conditioning unit, and it gets nasty. Like if you
not
don't change
changing
your
the
filter,
dusty,
it is
moldy,
definitely
dusty.
And you're not getting the coolest air and all the things. Like it's going
Good
to
point.
reduce
Think about water filter.
It's going to reduce your outcomes. Same thing, right? Water filter, your car, We got to change those filters, guys.
Dude, the filter is the frame, and that's your identity is your frame and your filter.
You know, a lot of people talk about the research on gratitude. I actually like appreciation better because appreciation is gratitude squared. So we have a website I like called Brain Fit Life. And one of the exercises on it is, who am I going to appreciate today? And if you can just find one person a day and then send him or her a text or an email or call them and just say, hey, I was thinking about you today and I really appreciate you. What you're doing, and why I call it gratitude squared, is you're building a bridge to another person. So you're giving it away, which means you're helping their day be better.
I love that. I just made me think of the statement, what you appreciate appreciates.
I like that a lot.
Every day, I start the day with, today is going to be a great day. It's on the top of my to-do list. And that way I'm like, well, what am I looking forward to today, rather than I have to get through this day. When I go to bed every night, I say a prayer, and then I go, what went well today? And that's my favorite happiness strategy, because it's like a treasure hunt, where I start at the beginning of the day and I just look for what went well. And the bad things will pop up, and I'm like, it's not the point right now. What went well? And I even look for the micro moments of happiness. What's the smallest thing that happened today that made me happy? And I love that so much. And I remember, and I think you and I talked about this last time I was on, about 2 years ago, my dad died. And he died of COVID, and it was terrible. And it was an awful day. And when I went to bed that night, I went, what went well today? Because it's my habit, right? Your brain does what you've done. And, you know, initially I'm like, really, today? But it's my habit. And I thought about an interaction between the police officer and my mother. And it was so funny. And then I thought about all the texts I'd gotten from my friends and how loved I felt. And then I thought about holding my father's hand before they took him away, and it was so soft. And then I went to sleep. And you have to build these habits, because even though I grieved for him, still miss him, I went to sleep. And if you want to get over grief, you have to sleep, right? I mean, you would agree with me on that. And it's these little tiny exercises, looking for the micro moments of happiness. I have another fun exercise where write down the 20 happiest moments of your life. I actually had one happen last May. The Canadian Association of Nuclear Medicine. So my work has been very controversial. I've gotten no end of grief from my colleagues. But last May, the Canadian Association of Nuclear Medicine wrote new procedure guidelines for SPECT as if I wrote them. And of the 10 authors, 5 of them were my students. So happy.
Wow.
But I take those 20 happiest moments of mine and I plant them around my house. So I make an association in my mind, like my front door is my wedding day, and I'm carrying Tana over the threshold. And I almost drop her, but that's because the night before when we were practicing our wedding dance, I almost dropped her. But it was funny and nobody got a head injury. That, every time I walk through the door. Plus that reminds me how much I love her, so I'm gonna notice what I like more than what I don't like. And when I go into the living room now, it's where I got an award from Discover magazine. One of my research papers was listed as the top science story, neuroscience story for 2015. That's pretty cool. And then I put the Canadian paper there as well. So every time I see my living room, I see happiness. Whenever I go to the kitchen, my grandfather's at the stove. I'm named after him. He was my best friend when I was growing up. He was a candy maker. And we're making brain healthy hot chocolate. So we used to make fudge together, but I'm like, no, I want you to live longer. It was sad when he died. And so wherever I go in my house, I find happiness.
But there's information that informs and there's information that transforms. And so a lot of people are accumulating information, but it's not transformative. They're not digesting it. They don't have a practice that's actually assimilating the information until it becomes real knowledge. And so they may go get high for the weekend at a seminar, but then by Monday, they've reverted back to their old patterns because they don't have an underlying practice and a higher purpose to keep them going. And oftentimes, they're not really going to change. They're going to get something. If I get that, I'm going to be happy. But real transformation is about an inner dynamic of change within yourself, which is not an easy thing to do. It's simple, but it's not easy. But if you're willing, you can participate in your own transformation. And so there are people that just want to accumulate information, and they become very academic about things. There's nothing wrong with academics at all, but they'll have a lot of information, but it's not embodied yet.
You mentioned a universal law, basically speaking things into reality.
Right.
Isn't just speaking something, that's a creation in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's energy. When we hear the different scriptures say things like, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. It's speaking, I call it a cellular logos. It's the logos, it's an energy, it's a vibration that then becomes flesh. It condenses itself into perception, it condenses itself into thoughts, it condenses itself into experience. So oftentimes people are just casual with their conversations, not understanding that they're actually setting something in motion. Oh, my poor back. Oh, I don't like this person. Gossiping, talking bad about themselves even. They're setting things in motion. So I like to say, I don't want to say what I don't want to experience. I want to say what I want to experience. So I'll say it's a magnificent day. Life is good. There's a way out of this. There's an answer to this issue. There's a solution somewhere. I'm going to stay there until that becomes flesh. But it's practiced because individuals, particularly now, people have normalized negativity. They've made fear popular. You know what I mean? And that's become, you're an oddball if in fact you're operating at a different level. They think you're just weird, And so you'd rather be an oddball in a crazy world than to be normal in a crazy world, Yeah, but I always caution people, and I'll check people with me. I say, well, wait a minute. There's unlimited good here. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not here. There's unlimited possibilities. Don't block yourself in to what your mind thinks is possible. This is the only way that some good is going to come into your life. It becomes, that's blocked. No good's going to come in. Infinite ways miracles can happen. Your mind will call them miracles, but they're just demonstrations of truth. So why block yourself in? Just stop it. Just say you don't know how it's going to happen right now. You're available to it. Let's see what happens. Let the universal presence, through its laws, shock and surprise you.
Normalize that.
Right, normalize that. Yeah.
I'm literally just still ruminating on normalizing fear.
Yeah.
It's a system within us that, of course, has provided us value over our evolution for sure. But today, to live in that state habitually, we're not wired up to live that way. We're not designed to be that way. And so even with so many folks having their aspirations, goals, everybody listening right now has incredible potential to achieve things beyond our wildest imagination.
Right.
But I think so often, and fear being a big driving force of this, we get caught up in what if instead of what is. Mm-hmm. So how do we go from what if to what is?
Yeah. Well, what if can also be used positively. What if everything works out? Cool. What if I have more than enough money?
you can go there and you'll get to what is. Because what is that right here and right now, all of the power, all of the presence, all of the intelligence, all of the love, all that is already here. It's already here. It may be latent within us, but it is here. And as we begin to think like that and contemplate that truth, our frequency rises. We begin to hang in that awareness. Now, what has happened is that individuals have normalized fear, which means their attention is more on what they don't want than on what they do want. So what people don't understand is that anything you don't want, you're having a relationship with it. It's existing, and you're not wanting it. And so people walk out, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to correct the Rona. I don't want to catch the coronavirus. I don't want to. So in that moment of I don't want to, the law doesn't distinguish between what you want and don't want. It only knows what you're interested in. And so if you're interested in not getting robbed, not getting poor, not catching a disease, you're in relationship with that. And then that's what you manifest. Now, you may not manifest that exactly, but your body temple doesn't know the difference. You'll still produce toxic chemicals, immediate toxic chemicals, immediate create the condition for disease. So I teach people, you get what you want or don't want. The law doesn't differentiate. So stop placing all of your attention on what you don't want to happen and begin to place your attention on what you like to see unfold in your life. Begin to describe it. The law says, you don't describe what you see what you describe. So if you're living in an accurate description of possibility, then the law starts to bring that into manifestation, you see. And now most people should be taught this in elementary school. Yeah. But instead, we have the nefarious forces that keep people in fear, and keeping them all pumped up about what to be afraid of next. Oh, the Russians, oh, Corona, oh, aliens, oh, whatever it is. People are nervous, We're not meant to be like that. We are an absolute reflection of the entire cosmos. What do we have to be afraid of? There's no such thing as death, you see. So there's no loss in the cosmic scheme, but everybody they've allowed themselves to shrink into being a little old something. And then they normalize their fear. Shakespeare said a coward dies 1,000 deaths. Constantly, even before anything even happens. They've rehearsed all the negative stuff. It's not funny, but it is kind of a comedy, what human beings do to themselves.
I love this so much. This is what I wanted to ask you about this today. I wanted to ask you about the comedy of life and the sickness that we can get caught in of taking life too seriously, of taking everything so seriously.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, there's nothing serious going on in the universe. Nothing at all. The universe is a big explosion of joy and ecstasy and bliss. Okay, so if you got to stretch your perception a little bit. There's no such thing as death, and there's no such thing as loss. Okay, you're going to exit a body temple when it's your time. In the world of the phenomena, things come, things go. We don't deny that, but there's nothing serious happening. So since there's nothing serious happening, what is happening? What's happening is the universal presence and all of its creation is continuing to expand, to reveal the infinite nature. So that means you get to play. It's our time to play in this, Now we create seriousness, NBA championships going on. We create a serious time crunch. Time doesn't really exist, but we play with it. Okay, we only have this many minutes, and when the end of the game, whoever has more points, they win. The other person loses. Oh, that's serious. It's not really. It's called a consistent irrelevancy. You know what I mean? It's irrelevant. Yeah. It's consistent. It's fun. At the end of the day,
it's a social agreement. We all truly we just made that up.
We just make it up.
It's all made up.
Yeah. So the idea is that we are here as joy babies. You know, we're to tap into that joy. And the thing about it is, when you move into conscious joy and gratitude, now you may have heard this from your mom, you know, and it probably spans all cultures. Yeah, our parents saying to us, you know, if you don't stop crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. It's pretty common, right?
I've gotten that one.
Yeah. The universe says, if you don't stop being grateful, I'm gonna give you something to be grateful for. It's the same law. You know.
I like that.
So as you lift your attention to being grateful for anything, for the next breath you're about to take, the next beating of your heart, then the universe will find something that matches that field. And it will shock you because it will come outside of your present perception. You know, we have a perception of life, and then in this perception, we want this, we want that to be happy, we want that to be happy. We don't know it's all of this exists. But if you go into the feeling of gratitude, then all of this opens up for you. And this is when you're surprised by things. You meet the person you were supposed to meet. You didn't even know that person existed, but that's the person you needed to meet to go to the next level of your unfoldment. Opportunities show up, possibilities show up that you didn't even know existed, just because you're in the feeling tone of possibility.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here.
The power that exists within the gut is insane. And this is why it becomes so important for us to, first of all, learn about it and use that information that we learn to empower ourselves.